to subjugate a people for long periods. You create a sophisticated system for subjugating them, and then you keep their minds dumbed down and perpetually distracted so that they'll never learn how the system works. This is what oppressive forces have done to us. Those of us who knows of it must teach it. African proverb. Your perception of reality is an elaborate white deception. White oppressive forces have literally whitewashed the perception of reality to create a false version that greatly aids them in maintaining their social status over the black population. The distortion of the perception of reality is possible because the public's perception of reality is not shaped based upon facts nor reality. The public perception of reality is actually shaped by the narratives that are repetitively fed into the society. Therefore, all that's required to distort the public's perception of reality is to repetitively feed false information into the society. The public at large will then begin functioning based upon those false repeated narratives instead of the true reality. Therefore, they will literally function based upon a false perception of reality. This is why white social scientists says their true power lies in only what's perceived as being true for controlling people and for steering a society towards an applied objective. All societies function based upon the narratives that are repetitively fed into the society. As a means of maintaining white social dominance over the black populations, the narratives that are repetitively fed into the white dominant society are deliberately distorted to falsely exalt their racial group and to falsely marginalize the black population. Virtually all information from white sources have been distorted to meet that objective. They even distort their published maps to make Africa appear 13 times smaller than its true relative size, while making all white countries appear significantly larger than their true sizes. They systematically falsely exalts their group while systematically marginalizes our racial group. This creates false assumptions within the society that aids them in maintaining their white social dominance over the black population. More specifically, it creates and sustains a false perception of reality that creates false assumptions within the society that directly affects hiring, firing, promotions, and retention practices in ways that aids them in maintaining their white social dominance and social capital over the black population. It's a sophisticated, covert black subjugation system that is better suited for the modern times. Unlike the more blatant subjugation systems used in the past that black people could easily identify and then develop counter strategies to overcome, this covert subjugation system is not easily recognized, nor is it easily comprehended by most of its black victims. Therefore, it allows the white oppressors to continue their subjugation of black people without any black resistance. The truth of the matter is that your perception of reality has been distorted by an elaborate perception management system. Perception management is a propaganda technique that involves altering the public's perception of reality to suit the objective of the white ruling class. It is an essential part of modern information warfare. As a means of meeting their objective of maintaining their elevated white social status over the black population, white social scientists and white propagandists have deployed an elaborate perception management system that meets that objective. Therefore, you're not perceiving reality as it truly is. You are instead inaccurately perceiving reality through white exalting and black marginalizing lies that have been repetitively fed into your mind. To explain this more simply, we view reality based upon our perceptions shaped by the information that we receive. But the information that we receive have been deliberately distorted by the white controllers of the information that shapes our perceptions. They distorted and warped it in ways that serves and protects their system of white supremacy. The hidden true reality is that in the United States, the largest recipient of welfare are members of the white society. The largest benefactors of affirmative action are in fact white women. And therefore, by extension, the white society has benefited most from affirmative action. And as confirmed by FBI data, most violent crimes in the US are in fact actually committed by members of the white dominant society. Whenever lies have been told to the masses over many generational lines, the truth will sound absolutely ridiculous and its speaker will sound like a raving lunatic. Nonetheless, the truth is still the truth, even if the masses have been brainwashed to believe the lies. All you have to do is keep repeatedly feeding lies through media ads, falsely scripted movies, miseducation, and before long, the majority of the population will then accept those lies and begin functioning based upon those lies rather than what's actually true. Those lies will become the truth, the perceived truth that the public functions based upon. This is precisely what has been done by the white society. The white society sits upon a throne of white exalting and black marginalizing lies. They've also manipulated millions to believe that their racial group are responsible for most inventions that have revolutionized the world, and to perceive black people as being the leeches of society that haven't invented much throughout history. But the truth is, in fact, the exact opposite from what they've manipulated millions to believe. The hidden reality is that in spite of cultural traumas wrought by the injustices of slavery and the evils of white racism, most inventions that have revolutionized the world were in fact either invented by black people or were directly inspired by earlier inventions made by black people. Here are some relative facts that has been deliberately omitted from our whitewash history books. After slavery was abolished in the United States in 1865, and in spite of receiving no reparation and being constantly plagued by ongoing evil injustices of white racism, but between the years of 1870 to 1940, African Americans submitted 726 invention patent applications to U.S. Patent Office. Not only is this extraordinary under these noted circumstances and so closely following slavery, but it more than doubled the number of patents submitted by whites during the same time period. And in spite of the fact that African Americans then made up less than 3% of the US population. This scenario of black people outperforming whites in the invention of revolutionizing technology is concealed from the public through the white society's monopoly over information. As I've stated before, the hidden reality is that most inventions that revolutionized the world were in fact either invented by black people or were directly inspired by earlier inventions by black people. Welcome to the real world. Without black people, we wouldn't have working light bulbs. There would exist no motors, no spark plugs, no automobiles, no airplanes, no helicopters. Without black people, we would not have skyscrapers. We only have skyscrapers because black people invented the elevator, the air conditioning, central heating, the fire extinguisher, the fire escape ladder, which are all essential in order for people to live and work in skyscrapers. Without black people, there would exist no internet, no cell phones. We wouldn't have cameras and microphones on our cell phones. We wouldn't have the accurate weather forecasting system. We wouldn't have the cataract laser removal scope. There would be no emails, no GPS, no hearing aids, no touch-tone phones, no caller ID, no home surveillance security systems, We wouldn't have the home game cartridge, no steam engines, no traffic light. We wouldn't have the modern color PC. We wouldn't have 3D movies. We wouldn't have central heating, a refrigerated trucks. We wouldn't have washing machines, lawnmowers, dryers. We wouldn't have blood banks. Without refrigerated truck, we wouldn't have ice cream trucks. We wouldn't have fiber optics. We wouldn't have the female sanitary pad. We wouldn't have bathroom tissue holders. We wouldn't have pencil sharpeners. We wouldn't have dry cleaning. We wouldn't have lawnmowers. We wouldn't have doorknobs, et cetera, et cetera. Black people have, in fact, enriched nearly the aspect of the lives of every person on this planet through our many inventions. The oppressor's depiction of the oppressed is never, ever a true one. It's always negatively distorted to serve the oppressor's nefarious hidden agendas against the oppressed. This fact has remained consistent throughout history and is still especially true now in regard to Black people living under white dominance. Because they write all of our narratives, they negatively distort our narratives. Black people have in fact enriched nearly every aspect of the lives of every person on this planet through our many inventions. White social scientists determined that if this reality became known among the masses, that most inventions were coming from the minds of Black people, that this would eventually erode the perception of white racial superiority that's required in order for the white society to maintain its social dominance over the Black population. This fact is therefore being concealed through the white society's monopoly over information. It's being concealed by this disclosed perception management system. Here are other ways of how the white society concealed the fact that most inventions are coming from the great minds of Black people. In order for Black inventors to get their inventions mass produced, they have to go before white companies. These white companies acquires the right to these inventions and then places white faces in front of the technology. Also, the patent office has always been used to steal the intellectual property rights from Black people. These two scenarios literally allows the white society to continue exploiting the intellectual genius minds of Black people while maintaining the appearance that all inventions are coming from the minds of white people. As I stated earlier, truth is not important. What is only important is what's perceived as being true for shaping a society towards an applied objective. Therefore, creating the perception that most revolutionizing invention comes from the minds of white people is all that's required for maintaining their social dominance over Black people. It's a social science that we must learn. You see, if the true reality that most inventions are coming from the genius minds of Black people, if the reality became as Black people that move society forward, if that became commonly known, it would begin the erosion of the white society's social dominance and social capital over the Black population. This perception management system prevents that erosion by perpetually falsely marginalizing all of Black people's narratives while also perpetually falsely exalting all of white narratives. This also conditions Black people to perceive ourselves through a false inherent inferior identity that also aids the white society in maintaining their social dominance over us. You see, when the oppressed population are denied from receiving positive information about their group, this psychologically conditions them to feel inferior, and in which makes them accept their subordinate status within a society dominated by their oppressors. This is what's also being done to Black people. Once we become aware of the harmful things that are being done to our minds by what oppressive forces, we can then start to shield our minds from further damage. This is why those of us who know the truth must teach. The real matrix is not a computer simulation. It's not a movie, nor does it have anything to do with a red pill. The real matrix is a whitewashed perception of reality that aids the white society in maintaining its social dominance over black people. Those black people who speak negatively about our group are gullible and naive. They're not seeing true reality. It's time to wake up to our reality. One love and peace.